In this video, we're going to take a look at sites contrast for ADA purposes. So to start with, let's take a look at what our goal is. Here is a typical website with pretty colors in it, and visually it looks fine. So we're going to copy the site address and put it into our testing website, which is wave.webaim.org. This evaluation tool returns a list of errors that we can try to correct. And in this video, we're going to just focus on the contrast errors. So let's take a look at the contrast tab. This is a really good return. I have one error. And when I click on it, I can see that it is way at the bottom of my website underneath the footer. It's the area where it says powered by, and that's put in there by Google, and I do not have the ability to control the color of that. So if you have a website that has one contrast error, you're all set. If you have more than that, we need to take a look at where the errors are and how to correct them. In our next example, we'll be using a website that has a dark blue background, and it is also using the same dark blue for the hyperlinks, and the hyperlinks on the sidebar are white. So visually looking at this, it appears that the contrast is all good. But let's put this into the Wave tool and see how the evaluation comes back. So I'm just going to jump over to the Wave site and refresh my screen so we'll see the new colors that we've put in. And you can see that we've got some red flags now under the contrast area. And you can click on each of these little errors and see where they are, and that will help you to determine what you need to do to correct them. So the footer, or actually under the footer, the colors, because they are exactly the same in this case, are completely vanished. And on the sidebar, there is not enough contrast between the foreground and the background. If you take a look at the tool itself, it will show you the problem. It even gives you details that there's not enough contrast for the contrast ratio. It has to be above 7 in order to qualify or pass. So the easiest way to fix errors like this is to change your background color. So we're going to do that and correct this, but then if you wanted to keep a dark background, I'm going to show you how you can also do that. So to lighten up my background, I'm going to go back to my website and into Manage Sites and into the area where it's Themes, Fonts, and Colors, and take a look at the entire page background, and you have some choices of colors. And if you pick any color in the second row down, which is all the pastel colors, you will pass the tests. So let's just change it to a lighter color and hit save and jump back into the Wave testing and see the results. I simply have to refresh my screen. So now the errors have changed. And in order to correct these, again, I can look at the sidebar in here to find out what the problem is. And I can see that the foreground and background of my sidebar is not producing enough of a contrast. I know that the result that I want is to make my sidebar the same blue that I have the hyperlinks in other places, and that will pass the test. But you could also play around with this and test and see how dark does the color have to be. So in order to do that, they have these little buttons here for foreground and background that you can make it darker or lighter. And you can continue to click darker, 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 and it will go into darker shades until both the fine print and the large print is on pass. Once it's on pass, you know that if you wanted to, you could take the HTML color and put it into your website. But in this case, because it just went basically from white to a gray, I'm not going to use that because I know I can use the same dark blue that I have for my hyperlinks and change my sidebar to that dark blue. So let's take a look if that will solve our problem. So I'm going to jump back over to my website and take a look at this time at the sidebar gadgets, because if you recall, that's where the navigation structure is, and that's where the error came up. So I'm going to click on sidebar gadget and go into the text for the gadget, and that's where you'll find the link colors and the visited link colors. I'm going to change them instead of to the gray that it suggested. I'm going to use the dark blue that I'm using every place else that has already shown me that it will pass. But if I wanted to change it into an HTML number, you saw the code in there, that's where you would drop the numbers. So I'm going to hit save, jump back to the wave tool and refresh my screen. And that gets me back to the best that it can be with only one error, and that one error is going to be down at the underneath the footer for the area where Google shows that it's powered by Google. So that's how we get to this point. So next, let's say that you have a beautiful website with a dark colored background, but you're not interested in changing it to be a light colored background. There is a way around it, and for most cases this is a beautiful site. The only problem that I see visually is that at the bottom, because we're using a blue for the hyperlinks, it's kind of muting the bottom out. But let's see what the wave tells us. So first of all, looks like most of the hyperlinks are okay. We've got some errors, and when we click on them, they are in the footer here. Because the footer is tied into the hyperlink of the entire page, we don't really want to change the hyperlinks to a lighter color. Instead, we need to change what the background looks like. So we're going to go into the Manage Sites and back into our themes, colors, and fonts, and we're going to make some changes. There are some layers here that we're not using to the best of our ability. First of all, you'll see if I change the background color to white, then everything changes to white, and actually the bottom footer then would be correct. But we're going to take advantage of adding color to the different layers in here. And first, let's get the color back into our website, and I'm doing this just so that I can grab the HTML code, and if you had a custom color that you were working with, that would work with this as well. And I'm simply highlighting the color, and with Control-C, I'm copying that code. Now, we're going to create a little image block in Google Slides that will work as a repeating image on the back of our website. So this way the background can still be white, but visually it's going to look like it has color in it. So however you get to your Google Slides, we're going to create a new slide. And once I'm in this new slide, I'm going to change the name to background so that I can find it when I download the image, and also do a little bit of cleanup in here, getting rid of the elements that I don't need, and then we're going to go into page setup. The reason I'm making adjustments here is that I just want a little color block to load quickly on my website. So I'm making this 100 by 100 pixels. And if I go into the view and view it at 100%, you'll see it is just a small color block. And I'm going to change my background color. And even though I think it is the blue that is in the color wheel, since we're working with a custom code, I'll show you how you can hit custom and just paste with Control V the HTML color code. When you're satisfied with the color, you want to download this image as a JPEG. So go into File, Download, JPEG Image, and when you click on that, it's going to create an individual JPEG image of this slide and save it with the same name that you've already created. And I know my downloads go into my download folder, and that's probably true for your computer too, unless you've set up other defaults. So now all I have to do is go back to my website. And I'm back into my entire page. I can change the background to white. I know with a white background, the very bottom links under my footer, being dark blue, will be an acceptable contrast amount, so that will pass the test there. Next, to create a blue background, we're going to go into our image area and click on the little icon for the image so we can upload the background image that we created in Slides and put it into that area. Now, the default for any image that comes in is for it to repeat horizontally and vertically. You can explore the little options that shows you how the image is acting based on the selections that you make. Next, let's save our work and take a look at what Wave is reporting to us. So in Wave, I have to refresh to see my changes, and I can see that I have less errors, but they're different errors. So let's take a look and see what's going on and why. On my sidebar, the images look correct, but the Wave believes I have white background and white links. So let's go back into our website and correct that. The reason it's reading it like this is that the sidebar must be transparent, so it doesn't see any color in there. So back to my site, and we'll go to the sidebar and look at the background color. We can see it's currently listed as none. We're going to fix that, change it to the blue that we've been working at, and let's save that again. Now it looks the same, however Wave will read it differently. I'll refresh the screen in the Wave, and now it sees it correctly, and it's accepting the contrast. Now the last thing is, the only error that I have is at the bottom. However, I'm not visually satisfied with the links at the bottom, so there is one additional thing that we can do to make those links work a little bit better, and that's by going back to our website and still in our themes, fonts, and colors. And just like we created the background image, I created a second image also in Slides. This one was only 30 pixels tall. It was just big enough to create a little bottom border at the very base of my website. So I'm going to upload this secondary image in my wrapper image location, and you'll see that everything turned white because the default again is set up to repeat horizontally and vertically. So let's change that to only horizontally, and now you'll be able to see a little white bar across the top of my site. I'm going to move that to the bottom, and we won't actually be able to see it in this preview mode because it's not set up to go to the footer. So I will save my work and go back to my website, and we'll scroll down to the footer to see what it looks like. So by using this little white bar at the bottom, you can now see the blue hyperlinks that are set up at the bottom by Google. The entire page has the dark blue hyperlinks, but because we really have the background white and we're using the blue image, everything on this site now is working as far as the contrast is considered. So by having just one error, this site is as good as it can be.